Hello people, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Okay guys, got a post here from the Hedera Foundation. I think you're going to want to hear this. So, this is from Anchorage Digital, which Hedera Foundation reposted, and they say, Anchorage Digital is deepening institutional access to Hedera. Now available custody support for HBAR. Interesting. Okay, so now I've got a guy called Marco Salzman, and he's just added on to this. So I'm going to go through this just to give you a bit more of an in-depth thought on this, because I thought this was great coverage on the whole thing. So Marco says, Anchorage Digital adds custody support for HBAR. This is a major institutional unlock for Hedera. Most people underestimate this news. Anchorage Digital isn't a random custodian. It's the first and only US federally chartered crypto bank, regulated by the OCC, in brackets Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. When Anchorage lists an asset, it's because institutions asked for it. Custody is the number one requirement for institutional allocation. If a regulated custodian doesn't support an asset, funds, banks, corporates, and asset managers legally cannot touch it. Now they can touch HBAR. This is an access unlock. Let's put it clearly. Anchorage custody support means HBAR is now eligible for institutional balance sheets, corporate treasuries, asset managers, venture funds, registered investment products, OTC desks, enterprise-grade DeFi integrations. This opens entire categories of capital. Anchorage has a strict asset selection policy. They only add assets with strong fundamentals, proven security, enterprise-grade architecture, predictable fees, regulatory clarity, real-world usage metrics. HBAR checks every box, and that's not common. Why HBAR fits the institutional profile? Enterprise Council governance. Google, IBM, LG, Tata, Standard Bank, Deutsche Telekom, etc. No other network has a governance model this corporate. Hedera Consensus Service and Token Service chosen by enterprises because of predictable fees and finality. Hedera Consensus Service and Token Service chosen by enterprises because of predictable fees and finality. Carbon Negative, a direct match for ESG requirements. Used for real-world systems, in brackets Avery Dennison, DLA, ServiceNow integrations, supply chain, tokenization. Anchorage doesn't just list hype, they list infrastructure. Custody also enables institutional staking flows. Many treasuries and funds use custodial providers to store assets, delegate to staking partners, earn yield in a compliant way. HBAR staking demand could grow significantly. This is not retail hype, this is infrastructure level validation. When Anchorage supports something, it becomes eligible for regulated financial products, tokenized assets backed by HBAR, institutional DeFi rails, broker-dealer integrations, compliant market making. HBAR just entered another tier. Hedera has been building quietly for years, but the institutional puzzle pieces are falling into place. MiCA-aligned tokens on Hedera, big enterprises adopting HCS, real-world applications, now regulated US custody support. This is the beginning of the institutional era for Hedera. Bottom line, Anchorage custody doesn't pump charts overnight. What it does is far bigger. It unlocks capital, it gives legitimacy, it signals trust, it enables regulated participation, it prepares HBAR for the macro wave of institutional adoption coming with real-world tokenization. HBAR just leveled up. Beautiful post there. Shout out to Marco Salzman. If you want to give him a follow, his handle is at Marco Salzman, and that is Marco, M-A-R-C-O, Salzman, that's S-A-L-Z-M-A-N-N 80. So if you guys want to give him a follow, feel free to do so. But yeah, this was beautifully put by Marco. I've not really got a whole lot to add here, because I think everything that he just said really does just tie everything up that I would like to say myself very succinctly. I think I just completely agree with that overall. Again, this is just watching the things develop, right? Watching all the cards start to unfold. You know, they're starting to come down now, and we're seeing like all these big institutions they're getting ready to migrate over. They're getting ready to migrate over on chain. They know that this is going to be something where these cryptos, the ones that are actually, useful, have purpose, they know that they're going to have longevity here. And so this is these companies starting to get their ducks in a row, starting to get ready to be able to provide services for these cryptos because they know they're not going anywhere, right? The thing that you got to look at this now is we're at the stage with this where, it's basically like the internet, right? When you had the whole .com era, right? So this is a bubble. Like, make no mistake, this is a bubble. Not all of the cryptos that we see out here right now are going to survive. And this is why I always say to you guys, if you are in the right cryptos, you stand to do very well. But that's why I can't just say if you're in crypto, you stand to do very well, because you've got to understand that, are you in the right cryptos? Because you could be invested in, for example, like a meme coin, and it could be that once regulations come through, that meme coin just gets completely decimated, right? Also, you could be in a crypto that gets a rug pull, it gets rug pulled. And then also your own greed and fear could play a part. So it could be that you've got a crypto where you could have made money, but, you got greedy thinking it was going to go higher and didn't take no profits, and then you missed out and, missed your chance. Or the price dropped and you thought that you was going to lose all your money. So you panic sold, not realizing that if you'd have just waited, that the market was going to rebound and go back up over time. So, there's other factors at play here. But what I'm saying is that in terms of all the cryptos that are out here, like there's 20,000 plus, something like that, they're not all going to be here long term, right? We really can't, say that for sure. And, I've been speaking with a friend of mine about like the crypto market at the moment, because as you guys already know, very uncertain territory we're in right now. I've been honest with you guys and told you my thoughts. I'm 50-50. I really don't know which way this is going to go. I don't know if we are still in a bull run or if we are in a bear market at this point. I'm really not sure, to be honest with you. But I've seen arguments for both sides. But a friend who I speak to can read charts. He said that, if you're in the right cryptos, we're all good. But in terms of just the random cryptos popping off and stuff like that, he's kind of saying that those days are done. That kind of time is over. So this is where, again, for me personally, I believe HBAR is one of the cryptos that I feel comfortable with long term. So I'll be fine with that. But this is why I'm saying that, you have got to be careful about the cryptos that you are in. That's why I say it's not just about being in the crypto space. It's, are you in the right cryptos, and are you going to be comfortable and know when to take profits and stuff like that? There's other factors involved. But, if you are in the right cryptos, and for me personally, I think Hedera is one of the right cryptos. I think it's here to stay, personally. I think that, when we look into, the crypto scene, let's just say 5 years from now, even maybe 10 years from now, personally, I do believe that Hedera will still be here. And I think it'll be one of the prominent, blockchain / hashgraph that's still around. And we'll see that, hey, this turned out to be a very popular network and it has stood the test of time. And it's still going, still going strong. And I think there'll be many cryptos and networks out here that won't make that cut. There'll be many cryptos that were spoken about back in the day that are just not here no more. If you think about Terra Luna, Terra Luna was a really strong cryptocurrency at the time. But look at it now. It didn't survive, right? It crashed. So it's one of these things where there was a lot of people who made a lot of money out of Terra Luna, but there were also a lot of people who got really badly wrecked by Terra Luna in the end when it depegged and all collapsed. So this is where you have to look at things again from a perspective, right? Because there's people who probably made money from Terra Luna and they say, hey, I'm happy with Terra Luna because it made me money. Right? I've got the same story. I was in a DeFi project in the previous bull run, and I managed to make money out of this project. Now, not long after I managed to make money, it fell through, right? It's still going, but there was some news that came out and it really dramatically affected the price, and then was going into a bear market, and it's just never recovered since. And so there's a lot of people who was getting in a bit later on, and they got in at the worst time because it was the peak, right, before it dropped. And so, if you ask those guys, obviously they're furious with that project. They're not happy at all. But if you ask me, I got out luckily with profit. So I can't look at it with such anger because I was very fortunate to actually make, decent profit off of that project. So again, this is where it gets very subjective. But don't get me wrong, there will be some cryptos out here that will not survive. Like, we have got to just acknowledge that. There will be, just like with the .com era, people, you know, buying cryptos thinking they're all going to go up and not knowing, you know, the fundamentals and stuff to understand what they're investing in. And that they'll get eradicated. Their portfolios will get demolished because, you know, these are not cryptos that will have longevity because they've got no real purpose. And so this is where I see us being right now. But when you see this right here, Anchorage, you know, now allowing custody for HBAR, yeah, this is showing you that one, HBAR is not like a top 10 cryptocurrency, but yeah, it's getting that kind of support. You know, like, it's already got an ETF. Like, I didn't think we'd see an ETF for HBAR so soon. I'll be honest with you. I didn't think it'd be that quick because it's not a top 10 cryptocurrency. But what that just shows me is how impressive HBAR is in the demand to get a company who wanted to make to make an ETF. That shows you that the demand is there, right? And so these are the kind of things for me. And then looking at, like, you know, the governing council, and all these huge corporate institutions who are having a stake in HBAR's, / Hedera's future. These are the things that help me have, you know, firm belief in where it's going. And so now you've got these companies trying to add, like, custody service for HBAR. And, you know, as Marco said, this is now allowing huge access and support for HBAR. You know, this is crypto again adopted on that next level, but it also shows you there's demand there. It's got picked for a reason. So, you know, these are the kind of things that give me the confidence that Hedera does have a long-term future. Again, I can't say that is a guarantee, but these are the kind of things that give me that reassurance and reaffirm my belief. So, you know, we'll see how things go, but this is real great news to see. Again, I can only agree with Marco, so shout out to him for the post. And I'll obviously keep an eye on this, and if I get any further updates, I'll be sure to let you guys know. Thank you very much for watching this. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And hit that bell. Take care.